How safe is this city? You do not want to be that girl with your umbrella flipping inside out. The best places to look for an apartment are Hello my beautiful friends, welcome to my channel or welcome back to my channel. If you've ever wanted to move to New York City or you have plans to move to New York City in the near future, you need to watch this video. This is going to tell you everything you need to know about moving to New York City, how to do it, tips and tricks. I have lived in New York City for about 9 years now and I feel like I'm still learning new things every day. But since living here, I've learned so much about the city and I want to really share it with you guys. It's gonna cover everything from how to find an apartment to saving money to safety tips and everything in between. So if you wanna learn more about those things, then keep watching. The hardest thing about New York City is apartment hunting. Oh my goodness, I feel like I've had several mental breakdowns over finding a good apartment. But now I know better, so I'm gonna do better and I can tell you guys. So first things first, the timing is everything. Best time to look is between February and April. During this time, you'll have so much more time to actually take your time for an apartment. If you're more budget conscious, this is also the best time to look because the apartment rents are significantly cheaper. The downside to this though is that because it is wintertime, a lot of landlords tend to not show all their inventory and save it for the summer months when they know they can get more money. So there is less inventory in the winter. However, you can still find a bomb ass apartment. Like I found my apartment in the wintertime and honestly, I love it and it was such a good deal. If you're not as budget conscious, you can look in the summer. The rents go up significantly come May because there are summer interns, kids are graduating from college, like the market is just booming during that time. So it's more expensive and the apartments go like that. Like you can go see an apartment today and by the time you go to lunch, someone's already rented it. Like that's how fast it goes in the summertime. So honestly, it really depends what you're looking for. Rents will be high from May until about the end of September. So during that time, I would personally avoid looking for apartments during that time. But if you have an unlimited budget and you don't care, go for it. You're definitely gonna be able to see a lot more, but I personally don't think it's worth it. I would look more in the winter time, like November to like April, with the sweet spot being in February. The best places to look for an apartment are StreetEasy, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace. Those would be the go-tos. On StreetEasy, you can actually filter out a broker's fee because a lot of apartments do have broker's fees, so you can select only apartments that do not have a broker's fee and go that way. There are pros and cons to getting a broker. When you do get a broker, you are able to see a lot more listings that probably wouldn't be shown on certain sites. However, you have to pay the broker's fee, which is sometimes like same price as the rent, which I personally don't think is worth it. But like I said, some people like that and they don't mind paying the fee. But if you are on StreetEasy, you can toggle that off so you don't have to pay a broker's fee. Finding an apartment in New York is not like other places. Like when I tell you, you can see your apartment on Monday and have your lease signed by Friday. So you don't need to be looking like 6 months in advance like you would another apartment. You can look pretty much the month of. However, if you have not lived in New York though, and it's your first time, I definitely recommend starting your search significantly earlier than someone who's lived here and is seasoned at apartment hunting. Because in New York, you really have to figure out what you're willing to compromise on and what your non-negotiables are for apartments because it's not like other cities. For example, it's pretty hard to find central heat and air, washer and dryer, in unit, and a dishwasher all in one building, right? That's not a walk up. Like to find that, you're gonna pay a pretty penny. So you really have to decide what matters most to you. Is it transportation? Is it washer dryer in unit? Is it central heat and air, you know? A lot of buildings do not have that, which I didn't realize before I moved here. I thought all buildings just had central heat and air. So yeah, finding an apartment in New York is very different than other cities because it's so expensive that you really need to figure out what you're willing to compromise on and what your non-negotiables are. So if you're not from here and you've never lived in the city before, I definitely recommend starting your search a little early, even if it's just looking online on StreetEasy and seeing what you're okay with, what your non-negotiables are, what you're willing to compromise on, and figuring it out from there based on your budget. Another thing you need to know is apartments in New York City can go so quickly. Like I said, if you are looking in the summer months, you need to have all of your ducks in a row. You need to have your documents ready to go, because sometimes you can go see an apartment that day and by that evening somebody has already rented it because they got their paperwork in faster. So you need to show up to the viewing with your documents to be able to apply on the spot, which sounds crazy, but like I said, it's way faster of a process than it is in any other city. I'm gonna list the documents you'll need here, like on the screen, so you can reference this when you're looking. Not all times are like this. Like I said, in the wintertime, it's a little bit more chill, but still, you should just always have those documents ready. So if you find a place you like, you're not taking days to apply, you already have everything ready to go. Another thing about New York City and finding an apartment that's different than other places is you need to make 40 times the rent to be qualified to live in an apartment, which is so crazy. For example, if your rent is $2,000 a month, you need to be making $80,000 a year, or they will not allow you to have that apartment. They will probably ask you to get something called a guarantor, which is someone who signs on for you to say, basically, if you don't pay your rent, they will be legally responsible to pay it. The guarantor needs to make 80 times the rent. It's literally insane. It's literally so insane. So that means if your rent is $2,000 and let's say you make $50K, you're not qualified, you have to get a guarantor. Your guarantor needs to make $160,000. That is like insane to me. But yeah, so that's the rules of New York. Like you need to have like a 750 credit score and be making 40 times the rent, or have a guarantor who makes 80 times the rent. And if you live with a roommate, then you guys can have your incomes combined. So if you live with a roommate and your apartment is $3,000, both of your incomes can count towards that 40 times the rent. That's the section for apartments. Honestly, there's so much about finding an apartment in New York. I could make a whole separate video on this, so let me know if that's something you want to see. But for the sake of the length of this video, let's go on to the next point. Next, let's talk about saving. Okay, how much money do you need to save to move to New York? Let's talk about it. Okay, honestly, I would say you should be saving 4 to 6 months of expenses, and that is just if you have a job lined up. If you do not have a job lined up, it needs to be 6 to 8 months, and that looks different for everybody, right? So are you moving here and you're moving in with a roommate, so your rent is significantly cheaper, your expenses are lower, then maybe you could save a little bit less than somebody who is moving here and wants to stay in their own apartment, wants a washer and dryer, wants all these things, and is gonna have like $4,000 rent. So it's really dependent on each individual person, but I would say don't come here with less than 10K. And I know it sounds crazy, but New York gets so expensive and you really don't realize how quickly purchases add up. Even if it's just like a $5 coffee, $10 drink, whatever, that shit adds up. And you don't realize, but like after paying your rent, your utilities, taking the subway, like in 1 month, you could be spending like $2,500 minimum. Can you do it on a budget? Absolutely. Absolutely. I had a friend who moved here. He was paying like $750 in rent. So you can do it on a budget. But even if you are moving here and you're only paying $700 for rent, if you don't have a job lined up, you still need to save at least 6 months of rent and additional expenses, because you never know what could happen. So even in that case, you would still need to come here with at least $6,000. And that is if you have a job lined up. Like, I would not recommend coming here just on a whim. Yes, you can do it. Yes, it can be done. I'm not saying that like it's not possible. I'm just saying if you want to be comfortable, you don't want to be stressed out all the time, you don't want to like have a bad time, I'd recommend bringing at least 4 to 6 months of expenses if you have a job. And if you do not have a job lined up, at least 6 to 9 months minimum. New York City is so expensive though that you will need probably a main job and even a side hustle, because it gets expensive. It is a pricey city, but there are so many different ways to make money. I have an entire side hustle series on my TikTok that I can bring on over here if you guys want that, and just tell you all the different ways you can make money. When I was in college, I was so fucking broke and I was working 4 different jobs and I was doing every side hustle in the book because a girl needed to make a coin, okay? If you want me to bring that side hustle series over here, I will. Next up, let's talk about safety in New York. How safe is this city? Honestly, New York City can be dangerous like any other major city. However, I have felt relatively safe while living in New York City. There have been some times where I felt completely unsafe and I've had some like scary things happen. But in the grand scheme of things, I've lived here for 9 years and I probably only felt unsafe a small amount of time in these 9 years. And like I said, that's any major city. The main thing I would recommend here is just always staying vigilant. Like literally be aware of your surroundings all the time. I would even recommend not even wearing headphones. I have friends that I know wear headphones, and sometimes I wear them every once in a while, but I will never have music playing or something playing in my headphones if I'm like not at the gym or not doing something, solely because you need to stay aware of your surroundings. Like, especially if you're new to the city, don't walk around with noise canceling headphones. Don't walk around like not paying attention, you're on the phone, because you really never know who could like pop out around the corner. And if you are not like listening and really being vigilant, it can be really dangerous. So what I recommend, if you must have your headphones on, turn the music off, right? Turn the music off and just like have it on maybe so people don't talk to you, but like don't ever have anything playing in it. Number one safety tip, especially if you're a woman in the city, like just don't do it. Another safety tip is you can download an app called Citizen that lets you know of everything that's going on around your area. I personally had to uninstall the app because it was giving me too much anxiety, but literally it will tell you like robbery 2 miles away, robbery 0.5 miles away, whatever, and let you know what's going on in your surroundings. So let's say there's like something ahead, you know not to walk in that direction. So I think it's a really good app. However, for me, I think it's too anxiety inducing. So use your own discretion. Another thing about New York City, the subway is not as scary as people make it seem. I know you see all the videos online, you see all the videos. People in New York have learned to literally just mind their business. And that's what you're gonna have to learn to do to stay safe in this city. Because yes, there will be people on the subway that are mentally ill, that come on the subway and shout things or throw things or ask for money. You just have to sit like this. Oh, better yet. Don't let them be on that phone. Just be looking at your phone. Like, you don't even have to have anything playing. Like, just be on your motherfucking phone. Be like, yep. Pay them no mind. You see someone on the subway that you can tell has ill intentions, do not engage with that person. Be on your phone and switch cars when you have the chance. Like, that's it. You need to learn to disengage when you live in this city. That's going to be the best safety tip I can give you, because the second you interact with someone who is already not mentally well, it's open season on you. Like, it really is. And I hate that that's the way it is, and I hate that you can't help out and say things, but like, it really is like for your own safety. So mind your business here and you will be fine. Another huge safety tip is to watch where you are walking. If you need to pull over and look at directions, stop over on the sidewalk and look at the directions. Never just be wandering like on your phone, especially if you're by yourself. Never just be wandering. Pull over to the side, look at where you're going, and then get back into the lane of traffic or whatever. Do not just be wandering on your phone, because one, you might attract the wrong kind of attention from people, and two, bikers literally do not care about nobody. They don't care about nobody. You could get hit by a bike. That's my biggest fear still to this day. You could get hit by a bike. So definitely don't just be wandering. Make sure to look at the road both ways. I know it sounds like such a basic tip, but even if the walk sign is on, check the road, because the bikers are coming for you, okay? The bikers do not care. And even though it says walk, you might get hit by a bike. So literally just watch where you are going. Watch where you're going, check both ways, regardless if it tells you to walk or not. Another subway tip I have is to always avoid an empty subway car. Always, always, always. There's a reason the car is empty, especially if you see one full car and then one empty one. You didn't just hit the jackpot. There is a reason it's empty, okay? Do not go on it. I have literally made that mistake and walked onto an empty subway car and there's been human feces in it, right? There's a reason. I've also walked on and there's literally a man laying like on the middle of the floor, like saying intense things, right? You know, there is a reason the car is empty. Do not go on. If you see an empty subway car, avoid at all cost. Next up, how to make friends. Even though New York City is so populated, it can seem so lonely. And as you get older, it only gets harder to make friends, it seems. You know, if you're not in college or you're not working a traditional 9-to-5 job where you're in the office, it can be really hard to meet people. So how are you doing it? New York City has so many amazing social clubs that are targeted just for people to make friends and introducing strangers to have closer relationships. Some of these include Closer, 6 Degrees, Shaka Club, and Reading Rhythms. And there are so many more. There's so many social clubs that you can join. I can put more in the comments if you want to know. But honestly, in this city, you really have to put yourself out there a little bit more than you would if you were living in like a small town or something, because The city is so big, and although everyone wants to meet new people and make new friends, a lot of people don't have time, and someone has to make the first move. You know what I mean? It's like dating. Someone has to make the first move. So you got to put yourself out there and you'll get it in return. Another tip I have is navigating the city. The city is so big and it can seem so hard to get around. So when you first move here, you need to download apps that are gonna help you get around. My favorite that I always use is Google Maps, but there's also City Mapper, Apple Maps, and so many others. But definitely utilize those apps to make sure you have the correct train time, because there's always delays, always. So make sure you have downloaded one app or 3 apps to help you get around and navigate the city. My next tip is to venture out. Don't be so scared to leave a neighborhood. I feel like when you first think of New York City, you think of Manhattan, but New York City has 5 boroughs, and they are all so special and have their own unique qualities. Like, for example, Brooklyn has some of the best nightlife. Queens has some of the best food. There's so much more to New York than Manhattan. So don't get stuck in Manhattan, only going out there, only eating there. Like, venture out. That's how you're gonna really enjoy the city, is when you venture out and find other neighborhoods. And whether that's like just living in another neighborhood or just visiting on the weekends, I definitely recommend you like veer off your usual path. Don't just have an idea of coming here and staying in Manhattan. Also, when it comes to apartment hunting, you're definitely gonna find cheaper places in Brooklyn. Like, when I first came here, I remember I never wanted to move to Brooklyn. I was like, Manhattan girl, and now I'm a Brooklyn baddie. You're not getting me out of here anytime soon. The place I live in now, if it was in Manhattan, I would be paying like 3 times the rent minimum. Like, literally 3 times minimum. But I live in Brooklyn. I'm literally near all the best nightlife spots, like, and I'm paying like such a low price for rent. So, like I said, don't be scared to venture out into different neighborhoods, whether if you're living there or just visiting on the weekends and like seeking out other neighborhoods. Just check it out and like expand. Like, it's gonna make your New York City experience so much better. And now here are some miscellaneous takes that I didn't really know how to categorize, but I feel like these tips are still important and you need to know them. This sounds silly, but literally the wind here when it rains, it's insane. When it rains in New York, it pours. Like, it's pouring rain, the wind is hitting you. You do not want to be that girl with your umbrella flipping inside out. And I know, because I have been that girl many a times, and it is so humbling and so embarrassing. It's actually so humiliating when you're walking around and your umbrella flips inside out. So get yourself a good umbrella. Like, that's all I'm gonna say. And ideally get yourself an umbrella that is like one of those bubble umbrellas, because also sometimes you have an umbrella and it's like still hitting like your sides of your body and stuff. So get yourself a nice bubble umbrella that's not gonna flip inside out. You'll be good. Another tip, buy good shoes. Oh my God, buy good walking shoes. If you're gonna have an Uber night, you can have an Uber night, but for day to day, you need good walking shoes. New York City is all walking. Like, you are walking the majority of the time, whether it's your commute to work or going to the grocery store, you're walking a good chunk of time. And I remember when I first moved here, my shoes broke 3 days in. So I grew up getting shoes from Payless, and within 3 days of living in New York City, my shoes broke. So definitely buy good shoes. Do not skimp on at least one pair of shoes. And it's like, even if you just have one good pair of like black sneakers or white sneakers or whatever, one good pair will last you a good amount of time, and you will be so glad you did it, because if you have a bad pair of shoes, your feet are gonna hurt, they could break, and it's just not gonna last with all the walking that you're gonna be doing. Another tip, use the bathroom before you leave your house. As crazy as it is, a lot of businesses in New York City will not let you use the bathroom unless you buy something. So even if you're going to like a McDonald's or Chipotle and like, hey, can I use your bathroom? A lot of times they're gonna say no. Even a bodega, they'll say no. Like, and it's because of, you know, the amount of homelessness that's here. A lot of business owners just don't let anyone use the bathroom unless they're a paying customer, which I hate that rule so much, because I would recommend using the bathroom before you leave the house, or before you leave like a restaurant or wherever you're leaving from. If you have a safe bathroom you can use it. Because you don't want people joining you and you can't use the bathroom. You never want to be in a situation where you have to go so bad and then the bodega owner is denying you unless you buy a Band-Aid. I've been there. And another tip, it takes a lot longer than you think to get around New York City. Although New York City is actually not that big, like sometimes you're only going like 4 miles, but it could take you like 35, 40 minutes, right? So in a car, it typically wouldn't take you that long. Or maybe it would, I don't know, I don't drive. But it can take you so long to get around sometimes, because you never know what could go wrong. A train could be delayed, like it might not be running at all. Like, there's so many different factors. So I would always recommend leaving the house 15 minutes earlier than you think you need to leave, because something always goes wrong and you do not want to be late. There's been times when I used to work in office that I would leave my house literally on time and 15 minutes late, and I would literally get to work at the same time. So you really never know with the trains. So I would recommend just leave 15 minutes earlier than you think you have to. Lastly, I'll leave you with this. New York City can be so hard and so stressful and really chew you up and spit you back out. But if you really embrace all the things New York City has to offer, it will make you so happy. And it is the greatest city in the world, in my opinion. Maybe not the world, but in the US. The greatest city in the US. I love it here, and when you really embrace the city for what it is, you get so much out of it. You really get out what you put in. So yeah, those are the tips I have for you. If you guys have any questions whatsoever, drop them down in the comments down below. I got you. And if there's something you want me to elaborate on as well, I got you. I can elaborate into future videos and talk about it, whether it be side hustles in the city or elaborating on navigation tips or anything like that. I can film a video about it, so let me know. And I hope this was helpful to you, and if you are moving to New York, hit me up. Let's be friends. And yeah, so thank you so much for watching, guys. Love you.